First of all, any medical provider who asks a chronic illness patient or a patient who has not been diagnosed with a chronic illness but presents in your office often because of weird symptoms that happen and occur in maybe a pattern that you just haven't picked up on yet. But there's definitely something wrong with them. You can see it. Maybe they have rashes. Maybe they're flushing after, maybe they have exercise intolerance. Maybe they can't figure out why coffee or a glass of wine is turning their, faces as red as my hat and lips. Maybe you have a patient who is like, why does this always happen after I eat or drink or do? And then they name, whatever the offending agent or activity may be. Any of you who say the words, are you just looking for something that may be wrong with you? Need to do something real quick for me, okay? Find the closest hard surface, maybe the wall on which you have your medical degree hung, and bang your head against the wall just maybe 2-3 times to try and knock some sense back into it. Because here's the thing, when you earned your medical degree, I know that you took the Hippocratic Oath, and part of that is first, do no harm. Guess what? Medically gaslighting your fucking patients is doing harm. And if your patient has obvious symptoms of something going on, just because you don't know what it is, doesn't make you a bad doctor. In fact, you would even be a better doctor if you did what my daughter always says. She's only 17, by the way. And she's already figured out it's the doctors who are smart enough to admit that they don't know what they don't know when they don't know it, and say, you know what? Something's obviously going on. We need to try and get you some specialist appointments lined up. I know it's going to be a long process because, there's can be months to sometimes years in between appointments while you're waiting to try and get into the next specialist because the medical system in this country fucking sucks. But you realize, okay, you are asking chronically ill patients or patients with chronic symptoms without a diagnosis as of yet to not do what you want the rest of your patients to do. When a patient presents with the sniffles and their eyes are all like bloodshot and like watery allergy, it's hay season. Hay fever season, there's pollen everywhere. The average person without, the need for epi because anaphylaxis and mast cell activation syndrome is like suffering too. You want to know what their symptoms are, right? Yeah, like, so what brings you in today? You obviously you didn't just come in to, have us pay me $30 for a 15-minute social call. If a parent calls the pediatric nurse line at 3 a.m. because their child has a temperature that they just can't get down, and has been doing the cold compresses on the forehead, and they've done the medications that the nurses have suggested, and the nurse is like, all right, call me back if and when or whatever, and you call back and they're like, okay, yeah, it's time to go to the hospital, time to go to the ER. Okay, guess what happens? You get to the ER, you get triaged, you get asked what your symptoms are or what your baby's symptoms are. You are supposed to be prepared to present that information so that the medical professionals who are then going to take care of you or your child have at least a starting point with which to work. And if your baby's got, a double ear infection and is screaming their freaking lungs out and is flushed and lethargic and has a fever of 104, okay, obviously something needs to be, obviously we don't want something to be wrong with the baby, but something is. We want answers. We want treatment. We want to fix the fucking problem. So, turn that around. Now you have a full-grown adult like me and like this person right here coming in because we have noticed that we react and start getting flushed and swelling, or we get welts and hives and digestive upset, or we have any combination of two or more body systems / organ systems affected at the same effing time, which, by the way, in case you didn't know, because a lot of you don't, that's anaphylaxis. That's the medical definition of anaphylaxis. Stage 1 is wondering if you need an EpiPen, or beginning to wonder. So, guess what? People who aren't having anaphylaxis usually don't wonder if they need an EpiPen. Stage 3 is the beginning of anaphylactic shock. Stage 4 is start praying, because now we're on the clock to actually see if we can stabilize the patient in time to make sure they don't cease to exist on this mortal plane, and your inaction doesn't end up inadvertently taking them out. But we can't come in with, hey, doc, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. I'm reacting to this and this and this and this and this and this, and you run the standard allergy test and nothing comes up. You're like, well, your tests are normal. That's great. If the fire department shows up to my house because it's on fire, do you know what they're going to do? They're not going to stop. The chief ain't going to stop and put his arm out and be like, hey, wait, to the fire crew, right? The firemen, firefighters ain't going to say, you know what? I got to find out first what caused this before I see if we can, actually treat the problem. And they don't come up to the homeowner. They don't come up to you and go, hey, so was this like an accidental fire or like arson for like insurance purposes? Because if it was a second one, we can't do anything about this. We're just gonna let that baby burn. No, what they do is they put the fucking fire out. So why are we the ones getting blamed for knowing what we have to know and answering the questions that you ask everybody else and expect them to know too?